Weaving, man. Like I saw her on a late night show, and they asked her to do her scream, and she's one of the best. She's one of the best,
Yeah.
and it's not just an empty scream. Like there's that as an actor, she's putting real emotion, man.
Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel. Yeah.
All right. Well, here we are.
Oh yeah.
It is October 2024. We are in spooky season. So
Yes.
we're just continuing along with our breakdowns of movies we wanted to show some love to. So we are continuing on with a fun movie that we will let you know about here. So let's get started.
Yes.
So this movie was directed by the duo of Tyler Gillette, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin, also known as, who are they, Ricardo?
Radio Silence.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. For
Yeah.
those of you who don't know, Radio Silence came in to Scream, and one of my favorite franchises. When I feel it, it needed some juice, and they brought it. So I was so happy to see these guys on this, and it's going to be no surprise why I love this movie.
Yeah, they're building quite the resume for themselves, and we will get to that. This movie was released, August the 21st of 2019. Today, the Panel Bros are going to be doing a breakdown for Ready or Not.
What a movie. I remember vividly you gushing about this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Being like, Rick, you have to see this. You have to see this. And it was unfortunate. It just fell through the cracks. I couldn't get to the theater at the time. And the moment it was available to stream, I watched it and I was just like, dude, you weren't lying. Like, this was so much fun. Again, we talked about this with horror, right? Where there are subgenres within the genre. And there's this amazing balance here with horror and dark comedy, and it just works so well. What Radio Silence did to make this gel with the cast that we're going to talk about and whatnot, and the story, it's just fun from beginning to end, dude.
Yeah, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. When I went to see this, I didn't really have that many expectations. It just looked like an interesting um, concept to me in the trailers, and they didn't really give too much away, you know. So I said, all right, let me give this a shot. We will talk about this as we're doing the breakdown here. I am a fan of shorter movies when it's done right. And this movie is about an hour and a half, hour and 35 minutes to be exact. And they just accomplished so much within such a short time. And for me, just original horror comedy, just they fed a lot into the movie. And, you know, we're going to cover those moments there of why we enjoyed this film. So,
yeah, for an hour and 35, give or take a few, the pacing is brilliant. There's not any wasted space or time.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, let's get started here. We have our opening scene, and they don't give too much away. It's just we see this dark house. It's big. It's a mansion, and we just see these two kids running throughout the house. And let's take a look at our plot here. As a child, Daniel Ladomas is confronted in his family's mansion by Charles, a wounded man who begs him for help. Instead, Daniel alerts his family, who arrive in ceremonial masks and robes. Despite his bride Helene's pleas, Charles is shot with a spear gun and dragged away into a locked room. So that's our opening scene there before we shift things to present day. Not really giving too much away. What's happening here, right?
Yeah, we got our cold open. We see some family dynamics. We're remembering the title already or not, and it looks like you kind of like, are they hunting him? Is that what's happening here? Again, I know very little going into this movie, so for a cold open, it's got just enough intrigue to go, okay, what's this really about?
Yeah. So we shift on over here, and I'm going to do that now. We shift on over here to Grace, played by Samara Weaving, reciting her oaths to herself. It's very playful.
Mhm.
And then we see her groom to be, Alex, get into the shot, and we just see them alone. We're getting to know our couple here. Clearly, she's
Mhm.
wearing a wedding dress, so we know what's about to happen.
Yep.
We're about to have a wedding, and it's very playful. Um, I did notice a moment before they have to go out there. Um, Alex tells her, "We can leave now."
Yes.
And it's like a foreshadowing, like, is something up
Yes.
here? And I don't recall if they said something or not, but isn't it bad luck for the bride and groom to see each other before they get
Yes.
married?
Based on tradition, you're
Correct.
usually not supposed to see the bride in her dress before the whole ceremony and whatnot. That's supposed to be so. Yeah, like they're kind of there's a little bit of foreshadowing in the scenes that we can just go, and we'll be introduced to someone very shortly where he makes a joke. It's like, you still got a chance to get out of here. You know what I mean? Very similar to the kind of humor that we make with our relatives and whatnot. Is like, are you sure you want to be in this family kind of thing, making jokes in light of it. But there's definitely some foreshadowing going on in the scene.
Yeah, and to me, we were just being sold on them as a couple,
Mhm.
and how well things appear to be. But there was a little bit of a vibe here,
Mhm.
and they kind of close the scene with a curse, and then we get our title card, ready or not,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fun. So we move along to the actual wedding here that I wanted us to talk about, and I want us to show some love to Samara Weaving. Look how beautiful she looks here.
Man, she's
So,
gonna she's gonna get a lot of praise throughout this entire
oh
conversation.
yeah,
We're just gonna put that out there. She's going to get a lot of praise.
yeah. So this is she's going through all the motions. She's clearly the outsider here. She doesn't have any family here. It's all his
Mhm.
family, and she's just doing what she needs to do. But she's having a great time.
Yeah.
It's not the most comfortable experience, especially when, to my understanding, this is like her first time meeting everybody.
Yeah,
This,
like
not the day, but that weekend, so to speak.
yeah, they're making it a point to let you know that there's somewhat of a pressure on her. She wants to make a really good impression on this family, and she makes it known. And it kind of lets you believe like this is the first time she's really meeting a lot of these individuals. Um, and I can't imagine what that must feel like to be getting married and basically for the first time, this is your introduction to his family, who are all very wealthy. She obviously understands it's a very wealthy family. She wants to make the right impression. So there's a lot of pressure on her to make sure that everything goes just right.
So I put down here that just to take note of the conversations between Alex's mom and Grace.
Hmm.
Um, they all seem to be geared toward Grace letting her guard down.
Yeah.
And we find out that Grace was raised in a foster homes, grew up in foster homes.
Mhm.
Um, she says Alex would have been fine if they never got married.
Yeah.
And she says she's always wanted this, a real permanent family. Those were her words.
Hmm.
So we're kind of finding out here, um, this was something she wanted, not because Alex is in a wealthy family. It's because, she just wanted to be part of a real family. And it didn't matter whether they were married or not. Alex would have been fine with them just not being married.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
So
they're giving us good backstory on her perspective and why it's so important for her, why she wants to make such a good impression, why she actually wants to go through it this way, as opposed to just leaving, as he alluded to earlier. It's like we can just go, but she wants to do it this way. She wants to have this family dynamic that she's never had before.
we see some side conversations between the relatives, mainly the father and the mother.
Hmm.
And you kind of get this notion here that they're trying to bring him back into the fold. Um, I, they drop this line here that Alex has separated himself for 2 years.
Hmm.
So, for the most part, it's been 2 years since he's seen everybody. It seems like he doesn't want to be around these people.
Yeah.
And something continues to feel off here.
Yeah, they do a really good job of just tiptoeing. Like they're letting us get that feeling. They're not explaining too much. They're explaining that, he's been kind of distant from the family, separated from the family. They're hoping this will be a way to bring him back into the fold. And again, like nothing feels eerie, but as you mentioned, like something just feels slightly off.
So we're getting some information here about our leads here, or about the cast, so to speak. They're letting us know that this takes place 30 years after our opening scene with the two kids, the brothers,
Hmm.
running through the house. So we have Daniel's brother Alex. They said he's the estranged son of the owners of the successful Le Domas Family Games Company, and he's set to marry Grace, who we've already spoken about here, who is a former foster child. And on the wedding day of Alex and Grace, she meets the entire Le Domas family. So let's do our rundown here.
Oh yeah.
We have Daniel, who is Alex's brother,
Hmm.
and Daniel's wife, Charity. Um, we have Alex's cocaine addicted sister, Emily.
She's great.
We have Emily's husband, Fitch,
Hmm.
and then their sons, who are younger here, Georgie and Gabe. We have Alex's aunt, who is his father's sister. That's Helene.
Yes.
And his parents are both Tony and Becky. Of note, out of everybody, Aunt Helene is the scariest looking person.
Yes, they made it a point to have these moments where like you'll just see her in the corner of the room sitting in a chair, never breaking eye contact with Grace, just like staring her down. And the way they do it, like she has such a distinct look, and that's what I loved about her character, is that like she immediately stands out. The way her hair is, her presentation, her body language, like there's this it's almost like every family member has one. Every family has
Right.
one member where they're just either weird or off-putting, whatever terminology you want to use. But Aunt Helene has that vibe. Like you just feel a little off around her. But
Right.
all of these characters do a great job standing out.
Yeah. Helene's just mean mugging the entire time. Not
Yes.
one cracked smile at all.
Mm-mm.
So after the ceremony, Tony, the father, explains that his ancestor, Victor Ledomas, made a deal with someone named Labelle. Uh, this is to build the Ledomas fortune in exchange for the family observing a tradition. At midnight on their wedding day, every new member draws a game card rather, from Labelle's puzzle box.
Hmm.
So the other in-laws, one of them got chess, and another one got Old Maid. And
Yes.
that brings us to Grace drawing her card. And she draws the hide and seek card. So
Yes.
leading up to this scene, they're in the room, and it's their wedding night, so they're hoping to have some privacy and enjoy themselves, and then be on their way. It seems like to me like Alex can't wait to get out of there,
Yeah.
and then scary Aunt Helene's like standing right there.
Yep. Just awkwardly standing there, just watching them.
Yeah,
And it freaks Grace out.
and then
Rightfully so.
right, and then that's when Alex breaks news to her, we have to play this game at midnight, and then she's just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like after the
Yeah.
day we've had, it's just like, "All right, I'll do what I got to do to win over your family,"
Yeah,
So
and it is weird. It's weird because he's like, all right, I know this is gonna sound weird, but we have to play a game. She's like, a game? Like we got to? And he's like, yeah, like it's tradition. But again, there's some like Alex is not excited. Like there's no, hey, we have to play this game. It's just like, look, we have to do this. It's this tradition. And again, you're starting to feel again, the movie does a really good job of making things feel just off enough that you're kind of curious about, like, okay, like the atmosphere is different, and she picks up on it too. Grace is looking like okay, this is all right, this is what it is, and he's just like, yeah, just like we just gotta go do it, and yeah.
yeah, the father and Alex had a little conversation. I kind of wish they didn't have it, but
Hmm.
he said to Alex, he said, "If she picks that card, will you do the right thing?" And
Hmm.
Alex doesn't respond to him. And then
Nope.
obviously we find out here. I put it down here. So we see Grace. She's just into this. She's like,
Oh
"All right,
yeah.
sure, let's play a game." Um, Immediately after the camera shifts to Alex, he makes a face, and the entire
Yeah.
room the entire mood in the room changes. The camera shifts to Daniel, and Daniel makes a face too. And this is so off-putting.
Mhm.
Grace asks, "Everything okay?"
Yeah. She sees hide and seek and she goes, "Are we really gonna play this? Like this is we're gonna play hide and seek." And like you said, the air gets sucked out of the room. There's no joy anymore. There's no laugh. It's just kind of like, mm,
Right. So Alex is playfully hiding while the rest of the family gets decked out in weapons,
oh
essentially.
god, yeah.
So yeah, let's take a look at that here. So um
This is where things are gonna get hilarious as dark as they get.
yeah, and we don't know what's happening, and they're just continually going back and forth. We see Alex just hiding in a little spot in the house, and then each family member is like grabbing a weapon one at a time here.
Yes.
And look at this lineup here, man.
It's the imagery. It's the imagery itself. It's like you just have these rich people all with weapons and just so nonchalant about what they're about to do. Like
Right.
we're getting like this understanding like are they about to hunt her? And we're thinking about the cold open and again very nonchalant to the point where the character Fitch is annoyed that he has a crossbow. Like he's like what am I what am I supposed to do with this? Like
Right.
they're making jokes about the nature of what they're about to do and it's done in a very humorous way, very dark because you're considering what they're about to do, but the imagery of just this family member just like yep, got our lanterns, got our weapons, it's time to play hide and seek.
Yeah, and obviously the only one that's not selling the comedy aspect is Aunt Helene.
Oh
You
dude,
know,
no, she's
she's
tractor
ready.
beamed in
She's
this
ready
thing.
to do this and
Yep.
ready to go. But I figured we'd have a little shot here of our family lineup here. So um, alrighty. So Alex, he finds Grace because he
Mhm,
knows that's what he has to do. Um, and when he finds her, he's trying to explain to her like, we got to get out of here right now. You know,
mhm.
he's begging her. Like she actually got tired of hiding.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
she was just like, you know what? It's all right if they find me. It's fine,
yeah.
you know. And I think the father might have even told her that you win if you stay hidden until sunrise.
I think
So
yeah, I think like he wished her luck and I believe he tells her like, you just can't get caught till something, till dawn. You have to make it
till
till dawn.
dawn,
Yep,
yeah.
till dawn. And she's
So
like, but like you said, she's hiding in a good spot,
right,
and she just kind of like, this is boring. You know what I mean? And
right,
she's just like, I'm just gonna go out.
and it's kind of like, hold up, we just started playing this game at midnight. Dawn isn't until like
Yeah,
5-6 hours from now. You expect me to
yeah,
stay hidden for 6 hours? They don't explain that there, but
mm-mm,
obviously Grace just kind of like, okay, you know.
yeah,
Um, Alex finds Grace. He's explaining things to her. And then they witness Emily accidentally kill a maid who she mistakes for Grace with a gun. You
yes,
hear a gunshot go off. Um, Emily hits the ground. Samara sells this moment, you
oh
know.
yeah,
She covers her mouth. She's shocked. They hide because they were hidden when this happened, so Emily didn't see them. So they're
yeah,
hiding behind the bed. She's covering her mouth. She's stifling the scream, and the maid is coughing up blood in the corner. Her head is bleeding from the gunshot wound. It's a really intense moment. You can see the tears running down Samara Weaving's face here.
hmm it's crazy. And again, here comes that gel between the two genres because this is a horrific scene. And then Emily and the characters come in and they're just kind of like, oh man, again, just very like, oh, and they're like, you shot her? Why'd you shoot her in the face? Like we
Right.
have to no, we have to keep her alive until the ceremony. And you're kind of like,
Yeah.
and they walk in and like, oh, you shot the maid, and it's very just like he was like, oh, and I believe the father goes, she was my favorite. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's very like there's no real remorse. It's kind
Right.
of just like, oh, and like the humor that they're taking in it. And again, Emily is just like, oh, I'm not good at this. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's
Right.
just like It's like, what are we doing? You know?
Right, and she's just all like, "I'm sorry, daddy," and he's just reaffirming her and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like, what are we doing here, you know?
yeah.
So, once they get some time, Alex reveals to Grace that his family is cursed,
Mhm.
and if the new family member who is marrying into the family draws the hide and seek card, the rest of the family has to find and then ritually sacrifice them before dawn, or they all die instead.
Mhm.
So everybody in this family is of the belief that if they don't sacrifice Grace, that they will all die.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about acting isn't just about how you say your lines
Mhm.
and about how you present yourself. A lot of it is about listening. And Samara Weaving's done a great job of listening. She's
Oh,
going
yeah.
through every emotion in the book. And as he's speaking to her, you could see that she's just going through it. She's in shock. She's mad at Alex. She tells him, "You knew and didn't tell me." And Alex says that he didn't think that they would go through with it.
Yeah.
No one ever pulls that card. Not as long as I've been alive, anyone's pulled that card. She comes back to him and says, "You could have told me. We could have done something about this if you knew that this was a possibility." And she explained we could have ran away, blah blah blah. And he said, "You have to play." Um, Others who didn't play ended up dying, and we don't find out how or what or why
Yeah,
what happened.
he just said it's vague in that department. Like we
Right.
just like, oh, they end up dying and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm assuming they killed them. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
you know.
they keep it there. He said he has one line here that I was like, "Ooh, how dare you?" And it's when he goes, "If I had told you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have stayed with me."
Mm,
And I was just like, "Buddy, to you that might sound romantic." I was like, "But you're telling her that you were willing to risk the possibility of this happening because you wanted her to be with you." And I'm like, "Ah, my guy, that's not good. That's not good, you know?"
yeah.
And she's hearing it, and again, it's a fantastic point you bring up and listening, because she's listening. Like, as a performer, you see it in her eyes, you see it in her body language, you see she's got this tremble with her hand, she can't stop fidgeting with her ear, her breathing, everything is so great about the scene, that she's going up and down with the emotions, from being scared, terrified, to angry, you know. And then right here, there's a moment where I'm not saying she is completely understanding of what he's saying, but there is a moment where she's like, "Oh my god, I love you. All right, let's try to figure this out." You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't say it, but you see it,
Um, he says to her, "If I told you, you would have left." And I'm getting mad at him here because every time
right?
I see this, you get mad because you
Mm-hmm.
know, clearly this is not his decision to make.
Nope.
And if you truly loved her, you should have told her and then left the decision of what to do up to her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it works, right, folks?
Yep. And that's why
um,
that's why I'm like, you can't really say what you're saying, my dude. You think you're being like, "Oh, I love you, and if
right.
I say this, you wouldn't let." I'm like, dog, that's the worst thing you could have done.
And, give the woman the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, hey, you're trying to build a life with this person. Let's figure this out
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, they would have
It's
ran away together. They could have
exactly.
ran away together. It'd been fine.
Um, we get a great shot here of Grace ripping her dress at the legs to give herself
Mhm.
more freedom and more movement. And we got a little shot of the Converse. So,
Yeah, we got
nice.
the Chucks, man.
Yeah, a little old school shout out there. Um, so the game was last played by Helene's husband, um, Charles.
Mhm.
Well, the last time, Ready or Not. So
Ready
the
or not,
other
yes.
games were played with the other in-laws. It was Chess and Old Maid, but the last Ready or Not was with Charles and Helene. With the mansion locked down, um, we move on here. With the mansion locked down, Alex disables. Um, actually, nope. We're gonna move on here.
Okay.
Alex disables the security system to allow Grace to escape. She is discovered by Daniel, who is disillusioned with his family and gives her a head start before alerting the others.
Mhm.
In the chaos, Emily accidentally kills another maid, this time with the crossbow.
This is where we start to see, okay, so obviously up to this point, Alex is trying to help her escape. They The entire mansion is monitored with cameras and all the doors and windows are locked. So at this point, we know that Alex is trying to save her. He's trying to get her out. He messed up extremely bad, but he's like, okay, our main priority now is to get you out of this house. This is the moment where we see that there's another family member that's conflicted.
Yeah.
And it was really, really nice to see that because, you know, you expect that Alex naturally would be like, well, I love her, I want to help her. And then you have the character of Daniel, who you can see it in his face where he's just like, he does not want to do this. He is, and we'll get more and more of that as the movie goes on. But in this particular scene, you know, he sees her, he pauses, and he tells her, he goes, you know, I have to tell them you're here. And she's like, you don't have to. And he gets a drink. And he's just like, I'll give you 10 seconds. And one of my favorite aspects of how he counts is he purposely drags it out.
Yeah.
So he goes 1 Mississippi, pause, 2 Mississippi, pause. Then he goes 2.5 Mississippi. He's deliberately holding that in so she could go. He eventually does call out.
Right.
She's in here. And then, like you said, we get another situation where Emily shoots another maid in the face. It's Emily, right? Doesn't Emily take this one out as well, or no?
It's Emily. Yeah, Emily does it.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
time.
it's Emily.
Yeah, with the crossbow.
Oh yes, because Fish gives her the crossbow, and she.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the maid's coming in. Unfortunately,
Yes.
the maid, this maid is trying to help them. Like, oh, I
Yes.
think I found her. Psh, gets shot.
Boom.
You
Right
know?
away. And then Emily does the whole thing of like, oh my God, why does this keep happening to me?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, you just killed someone else. And again, we're about to have a really dark, humorous moment because we're gonna see a big banter between the family in the scene, and they keep getting cut off because the woman is just gurgling and drowning in her own
You
blood.
could hear it. Yeah.
You can hear it. So they're like, what are we gonna all right, so what and they have to keep pausing, and you can't help but like laugh at it because the insane nature of it all. And again,
Yeah.
that's that movie tips
Yeah.
over between this
Yeah.
humor and dark humor.
And how does the gurgling stop, Rick?
Aunt Helene just takes this gigantic look. Aunt Helene, who I would assumably say is the oldest member in the family,
Probably.
and she just has this big battle axe, and she just goes out and she walks over, brings it down, and you hear the giant thud, and it just stops. And
Yeah.
you're
And
like,
then and then that gets them to
Lord.
react.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, geez almighty. And again, they're just constantly yelling at each other for doing things wrong. Emily's doing cocaine. Fitch is like, I don't
Right.
even like my crossbow.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment where Fitch is sitting on his phone looking at YouTube tutorials on how to use a crossbow. And I'm just like, this movie's amazing.
I remember in the beginning when Emily meets Grace for the first time, Grace looks at her and goes like this to her nose to
yes, she
show her
knows.
that, hey, you missed a spot there.
And she's
You
like
know?
this. And Emily's like, oh yeah. And it's like Emily's so funny. Like she's just trying to hype herself up and make sure she gets it done, but she's just terrible at it. And then they took out another maid, and then Fitch is like, oh man, she was my favorite. And it's like, gosh, we're doing so bad here.
Yeah. So Grace finds a shotgun and a shotgun belt. And we get the great visual of her, like the Rambo shot. You know, she's holding the gun, and then you see the shotgun belt across her chest here. Grace's escape is blocked by the family butler, Stevens. And this is a great scene here. She's hiding, loading the shotgun in the kitchen under the countertop, and he can't see her because he's singing to himself. He's trying to make a cup of tea. She's loading the shotgun, but she's trying to do it quietly so he can't hear her. Alex is watching from the control room through the cameras. She reveals herself to the butler only to find out that the ammunition isn't real.
Yeah, I was bummed, dude, because like this is where the moment it's one of the moments where I like seeing her character growth. And this is the moment where she kind of like, all right, I have to fight back if I want to make it out of here. It was no longer run. And she stands up, and she's tall, and she's got her weapon in her hand, and she's kind of like, and she gives him an opportunity. She's like, get out of the way. Let me go. And he's like, I can't let you do that. And usually in a situation like that, our protagonist might have a hard time pulling that trigger. But she made that point, and she just click, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And he tells her, he goes, that's a prop. Like that's not real. And I was like, oh man.
So in response, Grace grabs the pot, the
Mhm.
teapot, and she, splatters the hot tea he was preparing onto his face, and she runs away. Alex is cheering her on as he sees this
Yes.
in the on the cameras here. Alex is then restrained by Daniel and Tony after he attacks the father.
Mhm.
He has a lose it moment on the dad. You're trying to kill my wife? That's my wife. And
Yeah.
he jumps at his father. He starts choking him, and Daniel doesn't pull him off. He just like pats
Mm-mm.
him on the shoulder, like, "Hey, buddy, we that's not the way. That's not
Yeah,
that."
he even tells him, he goes, "You don't wanna do that, man."
Yeah,
Like, he's like, "You don't wanna do this. You don't wanna kill dad. You don't
yeah.
wanna do that."
They don't really talk about it, but the assumption is that Emily is so much younger. She wasn't born at the time that the two brothers experienced
Yes.
the wedding nights of
Mhm.
Helene and Charles, the man that was killed.
Yeah.
Uh, so in a way, maybe that moment, that night is what it was so traumatic that the brothers just bonded from
Mhm.
then on out. And you could clearly see that they have a strongest bond out of everybody,
Yeah.
So while you're seeing Daniel wavering, you're seeing why, because they've shared such a strong bond over the
Mhm.
years. Um, so after that moment between the brothers and the father, Grace is seen by a third maid, and she accidentally crushes herself in the dumb waiter while yelling for the family.
Yeah.
So,
The
hmm,
poor maid, I feel, and I'm trying to remember what her exact job was, because she makes it a point where she says, I don't even know what this is." Like, the
I
maid is
think she
just
was
like,
a I think she was a dancer.
there. Yeah, I think she was like, I just, I dance. Like, that's all I do. I don't know anything about what any of this is."
Yeah,
And Grace tells her, goes, "Don't worry, they're not after you, they're after me. Let's try to get out of here." And when the maid hears that they're after her, with everything going on, she's ready to drop a dime on her. And she's like, "She's here." And then, like you said, she accidentally hits that button and that thing closes on her. And Grace is still trying to save her. Grace is still trying to get her out. And it's like, no, and it crushes her and it ends up taking her life too.
yeah. Um, so all three maids are gone.
Hmm.
I don't recall the first maid doing anything suspicious. She was just looking for Georgie,
Yeah. Yeah.
the little kid. The
Yep.
second maid tried to say that she saw Grace, and the third one tried to as well. So the second and third
Hmm.
one unfortunately got their comeuppance for
Yeah.
trying to reveal, um, uh, reveal Grace's location. But in a
Hmm.
way, I took this as um, no one is innocent if you're dealing with this family, because
No.
you know what
Every
this family is capable of and doing.
Yeah, again,
So
the moment Grace told her, the moment she told her, she goes, "They're not after you, they're after me." She turned on her like that, just for self preservation. She was like, "Oh, she's here, like she's right here," and she ended up, nope,
yeah, and
took her out.
even though the first one didn't really do anything,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that they all knew what the possibility was.
Yeah, I think so, especially because she's watching the kids. Like,
Yeah,
they had to give her a rundown on what exactly was happening here.
right. So we see that people are dropping like flies at this point,
Hmm.
but obviously the three maids were the first to go. We get a little
And then there
backstory.
were none.
Yeah, yeah, no more maids. Still have the butler around though.
Hmm.
We do get a little backstory here. Grace is outside hiding, and she overhears the father. Give me one second here. Oh, so the father was telling Helene that Alex hates us, as in the family.
Yeah.
He tells Helene he's helping her. He's helping Grace. Helene states that Alex is faced with the same choice she was faced on her wedding night.
Yep.
And she says she denied who she was, but eventually she accepted it, and Alex still has time to realize it.
Hmm.
So now we know why Helene has been so dark this entire time.
Yeah.
And she lost her husband.
Yeah.
She lost her husband. And not only did she lose her husband, she went on to see other family members actually marry the person that
Yeah.
actually got through the game. However, the movie doesn't go into the people that actually did die along the way.
Hmm.
So we don't know who died, but we knew who actually got away from having to play
Yeah.
the hide and seek game.
I think that's why they made it a point to let us know, like, "Hey, I got chess. Hey, I got Maid's Tale. Like, I got this, I got that." And
Right.
you can tell that Aunt Helene haven't gone through what she went through. Again, she lost her husband. Her husband was killed. The love of her life was killed by her family. And like there's this animosity, like this has to be done. This is what happened to me. And these other people got in
Right.
here. They got in here playing chess. They got here playing handsmaid. So if we're gonna do this, I'm gonna make sure that we do exactly what happened to me. Like she's so adamant about it,
Yeah.
and you can feel why. And it's tragic. It's a tragic story of what
Yeah,
happened
it
to her.
was Old Maid, and she made a joke. "What the F is Old Maid?" You
What the F
know?
is old maid? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
so good.
so here we go. I had this thought. Alex stated that people that didn't play died. Maybe that's a part of the legend because
Maybe.
it didn't happen over the course of his life. Maybe
Hmm.
he was, telling this happened before Helene and her husband,
Yeah.
and it was never confirmed. He's just
No.
passing along the story. Who
Yeah.
didn't play died,
we
So
we as we as the audience haven't seen anything outside of the cold open, which is that
right.
one game, and everything we're getting is through conversation and exposition. So when he's telling her, yeah, and the people who didn't play, they all ended up dying, and it's like we don't know that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, and throughout the movie we're gonna start getting more seeds of doubt about certain things.
right.
So it's they're already like letting us in little by little.
So Grace runs to the goat shed, where little Georgie shoots her in the hand. So
Oh.
um, we so I put this down here. We got a little bit more foreshadowing here. There was a goat, and
Mhm.
usually when a goat's in a horror movie, that's not good.
Nope, not good at
If
all.
it's some certain things are associated with goats, but
Mhm.
we'll get to that in a second here. She knocks him out. She punches him right in the face.
So good.
I cheered.
Yes, because, like, she tries to plead with him, and obviously he's a child, and she puts her hand up, and she's, like, shaking and trembling, she's trying to talk to him, and he shoots her in the hand, and we they give us the nice visual where you can see the hole. You can
Yeah,
see the hole in her hand, and she's freaking out, and she gives us one of those primal screams, and she loads her arm back, and she just punches this kid dead in the face and
yeah, it was
knocks him out.
great.
And I was like, "Ooh, I don't condemn hitting kids like that, but yeah, that kid deserved it." Like she punched
Yeah.
him straight in the face.
She is startled by a goat
Mhm,
and falls into a pit that is filled with the corpses of the Ledomas's previous sacrifices, including that of
mhm.
Charles, Helene's husband. She escapes by climbing up. This is another good scene here.
Yeah.
She gets shot in her left hand. She's using her right hand to climb up. And as she's climbing up, she can't use the left hand because it got shot. She starts slipping. So then she has to use the other hand that gets shot and goes right through a nail into the hole
Yep.
that's already there from the gunshot. Uh, and it goes right through the nail. Once again, Samara just selling so many moments, but during this moment, she's selling the pain of what she's going through,
Oh, yeah.
and she's just going for it.
Yeah. This was a brutal scene because they do that thing where you see the nail, you see her climbing, you see the nail,
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh no."
don't do it.
And it's not necessarily that like because it goes through the hole. So you're like, "Oh, that shouldn't hurt." But she's putting all her weight in order to pull herself up. So this
Right.
thing is just grinding the inside of her hand, man. Like she's going through it.
Yeah. So she makes it out of the pit, but then she gets through the front gate. She squeezes through, and they show us a shot of her cutting herself
Yeah.
on the the gate. We get some false hope though when a car stops, but then it drives away.
Listen.
It's a comedic moment.
Listen,
Um,
like it stops for a second and it takes one look at her and justifiably so
yeah, they
and
were
just
like, "Oh
goes,
no, we're
"No, no." Takes off and
yeah,
she's just like she goes, "What the F?" And like it's so it's so funny, but it's so sad. But it's the way that it's done because again, realistically, this guy, the driver of that vehicle, has a woman screaming coming. She's drenched in whatever blood, just everything that you can think of. She just threw up because of all the bodies,
yeah,
and she's screaming. He can't even understand what she's saying, and he just goes, "Nope," and
yeah,
just drives off. It's so funny.
yeah." She curses at at whoever was in the car, and then she screams. And at this point, we've heard her scream. You know, we've heard her scream many times, you
Yeah.
know, but she screams again here, and it's great. So, um, Grace is pursued into the forest by Stevens the butler.
Mhm.
She fights Stevens off, but is eventually captured by him. Um, this is because she's driving the car and she
Mhm.
calls for help like in an OnStar machine. We have Justin,
Again, yep.
a customer service rep, helping her.
Justin.
Justin. Um, he shuts down the quote unquote stolen car, but states that the police are on their way. And we get another comedic moment here. He's like, "Can I help you?" She's like, "Yes, please call the police. These people are, you know, they're chasing me." Blah blah blah. She's like, "Oh, I have to call the police. I will call the police, but it's because you're driving a stolen car, and I do have to shut it down." You
Yeah.
know, and she's like, "Curse!" I'm like, "Justin, what are you doing? They're gonna kill me." She's like, "Please don't use profanity, ma'am."
Yeah, like, it's so funny because the dynamic between Justin and her is so different. Look, we don't even see Justin, and we talked about how this movie has characters that stand out. Justin is memorable because of this scene. You don't even see him, but she's doing the typical, like, these people are after me, these people want to hurt me, these people are this, these people are that. And he's like, all right, ma'am, I'm gonna help. Oh, you, you know what? Police will be there, but it's coming up that the car is stolen. And she's like, "What?" And it starts on. She goes, "Justin, you can't do this." He's like, "Ma'am, this is." He kept telling her this was out of his hands. He goes, "It's out of my
Right.
hands. My hands are tied. I can't do anything." And she's dropping profanity. He's like, "Ah, Justin, just start the car." And he's like, "There's no reason for profanity, ma'am. Just wait. The police are coming." But like, he's like, "All right, well, thank you for using Star Service." You know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah.
like it's so insane. But again, based on the
Yeah,
situation,
yeah, and
he doesn't
he
know.
asked her, "Is there anything else you can do for me?" She's like, "Yeah, Justin, you can go yourself."
Yeah, you can go F yourself. It's so funny.
It's like,
It's
"Alrighty, have a good night, ma'am."
douche. Yeah, exactly. Like, and again, from his perspective, you're like, okay, he works. He has someone calling him, yada yada, but the car's coming up stolen. He's like, oh, I gotta shut it down. Like this,
Right.
I don't. This person could just be saying this in order to steal the car, you know. But yeah, it was a very, very, very funny scene.
So, Stevens, captures her, and as he's driving Grace back to the house, she wakes up, she attacks Stevens, causing the car to crash and killing him.
This is
Dan
another funny scene.
Daniel is nearby, um, the crash. He recaptures Grace, but after realizing that his father is secretly watching. So,
Mhm.
yeah, you said this was funny. Please.
This is another funny scene because the
Yeah.
butler is so arrogant about capturing her, and he has his phone. He's FaceTiming with the entire family at the mansion because they've been tearing each other up. They're like, "We're gonna lose. We're gonna die. This is ruined. Alex, this, Alex, that." And the butler's like, "I got her," and they're all kind of like, "Oh, like what a huge relief, huh?"
Yeah.
And they're looking and they see her coming too, and they're telling him, "Hey, hey, turn around.
Yeah,
She's moving.
he turns the
Turn
music so
around."
he could sing
But
with
he's
it.
got the music on blast. And like she kicks him in the face. And every time she kicks him, they cut to the family doing the oh
Yeah,
like they're all reacting. And yeah, she kicks him, and this car just flips like 3 to 4 times.
yeah. Um, so where Daniel reveals Grace to the father, you have this moment where you think Grace is going to turn him, you know,
Mhm.
like because it feels like he's been wavering this whole time, and you don't know if he will or not. Um, does he knock her out just because he knows the father is watching, or
It's
so you're just like, was he trying to help her, but then he realized that dad was watching? We don't know, you know.
we don't. When this scene happens, he has a line where I was like, "Oh man, maybe it is too late for her." Because she's like, "You don't want to do this." He goes, "I don't. I really like you. I told you. You needed to go." He says, "But I'm not gonna allow my family to die for
Yeah,
you." And like when he said that, I was like, "Oh man," because he's got his wife, you know what I mean? And he's got his family, his brother, his mother, his father, his nephews. And he's just like, and I was like, "Oh man, that does suck," because ultimately, if this is true, they will all die, and he knocks her out, and you're kind of this is where I kind of lost hope. I was like, oh, we
Yeah.
lost Daniel. You know what I mean? Like
Like, oh,
we
we
lost
were right
Daniel.
there. Oh, guess not.
Yeah, nah, it's too close. It's too close because his wife tells him earlier in the movie, she goes, "You don't care if we die, do you? You don't care if I die." And it's like, I mean, he does, but he hates this. He hates this. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
So having said that, we shift to them, the family, preparing to complete the ritual sacrifice.
Hmm.
Um, they even dress up in the robes and such. And they are incapacitated after we find out that Daniel poisoned them
Yes.
with a non lethal dose of hydrochloric acid in the ritual cup. So we can wipe our brow with some relief here. Um, so Daniel finally came through. He wavered all night.
Hmm.
Perhaps he was just trying to be careful so the family wouldn't find out, to help her. But I would like to think that maybe it took that moment where he
Yeah,
saw,
I think
they were going to kill her. He's like, if I don't do something, this poor woman's going to die.
I think you're absolutely right in
Yeah,
that part because he has a line. She goes, I knew you wouldn't let them hurt me, or I knew you wouldn't let them kill me. I knew you were gonna save me. Something along the lines. And he goes, I didn't. Like
yeah,
he didn't know that he was gonna have the will to do that. And again, we get a funny line from him because she's like, "Oh my god, are they gonna die?" He was like, "No, they're just gonna crap really bad for a week,
yeah.
but they'll be fine." And when he said that, he said a week. I was like, is he starting to doubt the reality of what this is? Was that this? Or but I don't we don't really know just yet. But in that moment, he decided no, he wasn't gonna let this happen to her, and he was gonna save her.
Yeah, I like the line that he dropped. He said, "Someone had to burn it all down one day. He didn't realize
Yes,
it would be me." You know?
amazing line because again, through the whole movie, we're seeing how trepidatious he is, and Alex, but those two brothers have that. They have that. They were kids when they experienced it the first time, and it's haunted them. And so when he says, someone has to burn this down, anything could be me. That was a really, really, really powerful line.
We have Charity, Daniel's wife. She stumbles upon them and she shoots Daniel in the neck after he
Mm,
attempts to protect Grace, leaving him to bleed to death as Grace runs away. In the ongoing chaos, the mansion is set on fire. That's between a confrontation between the father and Grace.
mhm.
Um, Grace is then attacked by Becky, the mom,
Yeah.
but she's choking her, and Grace manages to get LaBelle's box. She drags like the tablecloth. She grabs it. She hits the mom in the head, and she has a moment here. Becky says, "You don't deserve a family," and Grace responds by beating her down while cursing at her. She's fed up.
Oh
She's
yeah.
she's been
This
done. And then now you're going to insult me? No, I'm I'm doing this to protect myself. I'm trying to save my own life here.
this is probably we've seen multiple deaths so far in the movie, and some are done to comedic effect with the maids and whatnot. But this might be the most brutal death of the movie because she literally just repeatedly hits her until there's nothing left. There's
Yeah.
anger, there's pain, there's sadness, there's anguish, there's all of that in this moment where she's yelling, and she literally beats her until there's nothing left. She uses that box until there is nothing left of that woman's face.
Yeah. So Alex had been captured and tied up
Hmm.
because they realized he was going to try to help her. He does escape his restraints and he goes to find Grace and he witnesses her attacking his mother. He walks in on the closing moments of
Yeah.
Grace, killing his mom. Um, and he doesn't react to it actually,
Hmm.
which
It's
I found curious.
it's almost like I couldn't tell if it was shock, which ultimately could make sense for a character in that moment to witness his own mother be beaten so brutally. But there's this moment, and like it's just there's a pause. There's a pause. Like he's not running over to get her off. There's just this moment of just like the air is still, and you can feel it. You can almost feel like even Grace is unsure of what his reaction is going to be given the circumstances of what he just saw.
Yeah. And I don't want to gloss over this. He does have a moment where he gets to say goodbye to Daniel.
Mhm.
He says, "Don't leave me."
Don't
It's
leave
really
me. Ah, that hurt.
it's really sad. It's really
That hurt.
sad.
Yeah. It's don't leave me. Don't go. Don't leave me. Stay with me. Stay with me. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. So he walks in on her, um, and then it looks like they're kind of safe at this moment. He's like, "Come on, let's go. Now we can go." And Grace pulls away from Alex.
Mhm.
Um, he realizes that she will never trust him and will almost certainly leave him once she escapes. He says, "You won't be with me after this, will you?"
Yeah.
Alex turns. He
Mhm.
subdues her to complete the ritual. Um, but Grace does manage to break free from the ritual table just as the sun rises. So we're going to
Oh,
break down the
yeah.
scene here.
Yeah.
They're all around. They're in the robes. They're all chanting "Hail Satan." So we
Yeah, dude.
find out this is demonic,
Yeah,
and
like, dude, they went full dark forces on this one.
yeah. So I feel like the goat was intentional, knowing
Oh,
that this
yeah,
is where it
the
was
goat in the
leading.
barn, yeah, 100%. I feel like it's that again, that foreshadowing to a degree, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
we have you don't see anything else, you just get this one goat, man. Just get this
yeah,
goat. That's all you're gonna get.
yeah. Shout out to all the fans of The Witch and Black Phillip. So
Yeah, bro.
um, so Alex goes to stab her, and his last lines before he stabs her is "Hail Satan."
Bro, and
uh,
like they're all saying it, and it gets to him, and she's like staring him, and you're like, is he gonna do it? And they give us that pause,
it's like,
and he does
right,
it and he just says it, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
he's gone,
yeah.
dude, he's gone.
Um, he misses and he hits her in the
Mhm.
shoulder. And we're gonna gush about Samara Weaving here. She
Oh
lets
god.
out the most pained and exhausted scream of the night. Knife, excuse me, the most pained and exhausted scream of the night. After she pulled the knife out of her shoulder, and her face says
Mhm.
it all.
Yeah.
She pulls it out. She screams at them, and she's just holding the knife, and just this look on her face. Um, Incredible moments
Mhm.
for the actor, and just incredible moment for the movie. Period.
Yeah, it oh my god. It's the kind of scream that feels like a human being is at their psychic breaking point. Like their psyche is broken. Like she was so near death. She's just been stabbed in the shoulder. She hears them chanting. Like she is about to literally be sacrificed, everything she's gone through with having to get physically violent, be willing to go as far as she's willing to go, the injury, this primal scream, it's like that is a broken person. Like
Yeah,
she's at her end. Like this is it. Like she's at her end. She pulls it out. She's holding a knife. It's literally this is it. This is the do or die moment. It's her surrounded in a room by probably 5 or 6 more people, and all she has is this blade, and it's like this is it. And like this amazing performance from her is just like you can't help but applaud it. It's so good.
yeah, it was great. Good job, Samara Weaving, and we're not
Yeah,
done.
dude. Like,
Yeah, we're not done talking about her. She screamed all night, but this
mhm.
was the one that stood out. You use that word guttural a lot,
It's
and
guttural. Like it just comes from
it,
there,
but it
dude.
was, and there was just so much emotion in the moment, just exhaustion, fear, but also just I'm not letting you take me. Just a
Mhm.
little bit of everything, and Samara Weaving sells an incredible moment here. But as we stated, the sun does come up, so she makes it to dawn right after this moment. And despite Grace having won the game, Angeline says the girl still dies.
Mhm.
And she attempts to attack her with her weapon here. And mid stride, Angeline explodes. And we
This
find out this
sequel,
is the consequence of the curse. And then one by one, the entire family starts exploding.
it's so it feels so good because radio silence was really fun for this. So what happened? Obviously, the sun comes up and everybody does the reaction, right? Like
Right,
everybody's like, "Oh no," and then nothing happens.
right.
And I kid you not, the first time I saw this, I was like, "It's not real."
Yeah,
Oh my god, it's not real. And then even Fitch goes, I knew it. I knew it was bull crap. And I'm like, is this gonna be one of those movies? And then like they all kind of just look at each other and
yeah.
they're
I
kind of
I,
like,
I thought it was that was going to be it.
I
I
thought
thought
that
that
was the twist. I thought that was going to be the
right.
twist of the movie where they've been doing this heinous act for so many years for nothing. And all those innocent people died for nothing. And I was like, oh my God, that's the twist of the movie. None of it's real. And I'm like, but it's still gonna close out. Maybe the police are coming, whatever, because Justin said they were coming. And I'm like, that's what's gonna happen. And no, Aunt Helene says she dies anyway. And when she explodes, I let out this laugh, not because I found like it was not because it was just funny, but because I was so thrilled with what was about to happen.
Oh
And
yeah.
individually, you start seeing Fitch pop.
Yep.
You see the wife pop.
Well,
The kids, they did really well. They handled that well because the kids run into the hallway with the mom, and you don't see it. You
because
just see
we don't see
blood.
the kids. Yeah, they
You
don't
just
break
see
the rule
blood.
because
Nope.
that's a rule, and we don't show kids dying in horror. We're not supposed to, you know.
Not
So
in not when you want to mix that comedy aspect to it. It's like you
right,
don't want to do that. But
yeah,
yes, it was really well done the way they did the kids.
yeah, and the father was like one of the last ones. He's like, I am in control, and then
Yeah, yeah. He was like, "No, I followed the rules. I kept tradition. I am in control." Explodes.
yeah.
And then we have Alex who's last, which is
Yeah. So, but before we get to that, I had to once again we're discussion about Samara Weaving here. As they are all in the middle of them exploding, she's laughing and we're laughing
yes,
along
like
with her.
it's so like
She's like she can't believe it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is really happening."
yeah, like it's so crazy because one is it's true, but it's like again, like she's pretty broken, and there's nothing she can do in this moment but just laugh at the ridiculous nature of it all. But she won. She won the game,
She won the
and
game.
she's just laughing like you guys are finally getting what's owed to you,
Right.
and it's so great. And again, everyone's kind of like, oh, I don't want this. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Everyone's exploding. The dad's like, I'm exploding. And then we have our final moment with her and Alex.
Yeah. She's maniacally laughing at this point, you know,
Yes, it's great.
and clearly the directors they left Alex last for this moment here.
Yes.
Um I put down here after all that, she herself can't believe it's true. She won.
Mhm.
And they're now paying the price for everything they've done over all the years because somebody finally beat them at the game. So they have this moment here with her and Alex. He tries to convince Grace to forgive him. I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was thinking. I was just trying to save my family. Maybe, look, I'm still here. Maybe I've been given a second chance. She refuses and tosses her ring back, declaring she wants a divorce. And then Alex lastly succumbs to the curse and explodes. Okay. He explodes and it's right in her face.
Yes.
It gets in her mouth and you can see that.
Yep.
And I love that they left this in because I feel like maybe she did it
Yes.
as a gag and they were like, oh no, we're keeping it. She smacks her lips. She goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
she smacks her lips, knowing fully that her character can taste the blood. And she even like she does this with her lips, you know,
Mhm.
and it's just like, ew.
Yeah. Like it's so ridiculous in nature. Again, that's the blood of her in-laws, of Alex and whatnot. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like there's no way that was in the script.
There it's
She
it's
smacks her
so
lip. Her husband's exploded on her face, and she went,
yeah, it feels like it feels like that was a choice. Like I can't
yeah,
see. I'm not saying the directors can't do it, but I don't see them being like, "Hey, by the way, during this scene, if you could just smack your lips." Like I feel like
yeah,
it's such a minor choice that I'm like, no, that was weaving. Like she sat there and went, mm, "Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah."
yeah, yeah. It's up.
It's in my it's in my
That's up.
mouth.
Yeah, that's up in there exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. And what happens
um,
next made me laugh so hard.
yeah. So LaBelle briefly shows himself to Grace, and he nods in approval.
He like it's so funny because like she's looking at the chair and you see like a fireball, like a flame from the
Yes.
fireplace come out to the chair. You see his spirit, and he kind of just goes, like well done. And she's just like, oh F. You know what I mean? Like her reaction to it is just like, oh
Well,
crap. You know what
after
I mean?
everything, seeing a ghost, all right.
Yeah,
I
like
I
it
guess
was
that's where
just
we're at now.
it was like, hold on, not only did she see a ghost, but he gave her the nod, like, well done, well done,
Yeah,
and she's just like, oh crap. And it's so funny.
yeah. Um, Grace is now the sole survivor of the night. She walks out of the burning manor just as the police arrive, and upon asking her what happened, she simply replies, um, "In-laws." And
In-laws.
yeah, we see her just after the entire night, just back
Yep.
to the
Just
cigarette here. I mean, this was a gag actually in the beginning of the movie, and she was smoking in the beginning,
mhm.
and for whatever reason, she didn't want the family to know that she smoked. It was really odd.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
the wifey, or excuse me, the mom asked, "Do you smoke?" And she's like, "Oh no, I don't smoke."
yeah.
But by the end of the movie, she was ready for a cigarette again, and there she is, on the front
That
lawn, or the front
what
porch
a
rather.
what a it's such it's one of those iconic final girl shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she is from the movie, we see her progress, and you see her dress get darker, more red, and we have this shot where she's literally covered in everyone's blood, having a cigarette, smoking on the property as it like destructs behind her on fire. Like it's such a great
All right. And the
visual.
police are just like, "What happened?"
Yeah, in-laws.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is she gonna say? You know what I mean? Like, oh, by the way, this and that. Like, it's such a great response.
Yeah. So, and that's our movie.
Mm,
So let's give our initial thoughts here. So you can't watch this movie without just having that thought. So that's excuse me. That's Samara Weaving, though.
hmm
Samara
That's
Weaving,
Samara
just
Weavings, though. That's
yeah,
Samara
just
Weavings, though.
incredible performance from beginning
Hmm
to end in a horror comedy, an
Yes.
original horror comedy. Um, for me, that's just it. Every single time I watch this movie, she's just a delight to watch. She makes this movie.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
I mentioned to you off the air that another thought for me is, so I enjoy shorter movies, and
Hmm
especially if they're done the right way. It's an hour and 35 minutes, and in an hour 35 minutes, this ensemble cast, each person owns their role so
hmm
well to make each character memorable. Every character is memorable in this movie, down to the maids that barely had any
Yeah.
screen time. Everybody is memorable in this movie. What a great job for such a short movie, for an original movie, horror comedy, and then in the middle of this whole ordeal, we have this one actress that just gives such an amazing performance.
Yeah. It's it's great. What's great about it too, especially with horror comedy, you can get into movies where the it almost feels like the characters know what type of movie they're in. Everyone in this movie plays it straight. Everyone is playing the movie straight, but it adds to the comedy. So you have Samara Weaving, who is giving an amazing dramatic performance throughout this entire movie. Like the fear, the panic, like she's delivering a hardcore performance. Even Adam Brody is giving us a magnificent performance. Mark O'Brien as Alex. Like everybody is in deep, and it helps the movie work that much better. So the horror moments hit really hard, but then the comedy hits really hard because it doesn't feel like they're hamming it up for the sake of comedy. It's like, no, these are these characters. Like they all stand out, as you mentioned. Like she's leading the pack, but it feels like an ensemble cast at that point. Like you could have legitimately, if you wanted to, done a Knives Out situation where everyone in here was a big significant name in Hollywood, and you would feel justified in it because
Right.
every character in this movie was used really well. I didn't feel anyone in the family was kind of pushed to the side or very forgettable. I think every character is very memorable for specific reasons. Again, I laughed so much with Fitch because he was that guy that's just like obnoxiously married into the wedding, and like everything to him is a hassle, even though someone is about to lose their lives. But everything's a hassle. I don't like my crossbow. Why do I have to use my crossbow? I'm watching tutorials on the crossbow. Can we switch weapons? I don't like this. You killed the other maid? I like that maid. You got Emily who's doing cocaine, who's messing up all the time. You know what I mean? You have Aunt Helene, which is just this stoic, like, I'm going to murder
Yes.
her. I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we have. Like, just everyone stands out. You have the dad who's trying so hard to keep his family together. And in any other situation, you're like, oh, he's a good dad. He's really trying to keep his family together, you know. But in this case, it's like, we got to get together, or we're all gonna die and explode in the morning. We got to kill this person. It's like that. That's just odd, you know. So the movie works on so many levels. As you mentioned, to be an hour and 35, the pacing is fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you have that many characters in here and you never feel lost. There's no wasted space or time. You know, sometimes you go watch a movie and go, oh, they could have cut 15 minutes. Or there have been times where I've seen movies go, man, I feel like they needed to add like 20 more minutes. And this had a great sweet spot. Radio Silence did a magnificent job with the cast, with the characters, with the story. And I was so happy when I finally got to see it, because again, you gushed about it for a while and you were like, that, you know, that weaving dough, you know what I'm saying? And I was like,
Yeah.
all right. And I was blown away by her performance, and everyone did a great job, but she did just such a magnificent job carrying this. And I'll be honest with you, like, I hadn't really seen personally, I hadn't seen her in much prior to this. She's
Right.
done other projects,
She
but
has.
this was the first time where I saw her in that leading role where I was like, oh, you cast her in anything immediately. Like, get her in so much. Just a great dynamic to see on screen. She's electric. In my opinion, when we're talking about female heroines or final girls in horror, she's in that list now. You know, you got your Nev Campbells, your Jennifer Love Hewitts, you got your Sigourney Weavers, you know, she fits in that category where she's in a horror movie. She can carry it and carry it well. And I want to see more. I want to see her do a lot more explosive things, because this was fantastic for her.
And you touched on this with the ensemble cast. You know, you
Mhm.
mentioned Knives Out. You know, let's go a little more old school. Clue. You know,
Clue,
where
yeah.
yeah, great ensemble cast where everyone just owns their character. And we could have gotten bigger names, but this is a
Yeah.
low budget horror movie.
Yeah.
But that's when you can tell that the script was written so well that
Hmm.
these lesser known actors. I mean, we knew some of them. Some of them are
Yeah.
recognizable faces, but also, hey, sometimes it just takes a combination of the right script and somebody just reading, reading the script, performing the script in a decent manner, that
Hmm.
you don't need those big name actors to let the script shine. We are going to give some love to the actors in a little bit here. I did want to give a shout out to our budget here and the box office. So the budget, very low budget, $6 million,
Bro,
and yeah,
you wouldn't be able to convince me, because it's that well,
yeah.
it's that well made. Again, the misconception is that low budget movies look or feel bad. No, we've proven that time and time again that's not the case.
And it went on to be a box office success at 57.6 million.
Hmm.
So obviously this raised eyebrows for Radio Silence, and it they went on to make some other movies.
Oh,
So
and there isn't a Radio Silence movie I don't like. I
yeah.
like all of them.
Um, so let's give a love. Excuse me. Let's get a little love to the cast here.
Hmm.
We have Samara Weaving as Grace. We have Adam Brody
Yeah.
as Daniel, Alex's brother. We have Mark O'Brien as Alex. We have Henry Cizerni as Tony, the father. We have Andy McDowell as Becky, the mom.
Yeah.
Melanie Scrofano as Emily. We have Christian Brunn as Fitch. We have Elise as Charity. We have Nikki Guada. Let me see this here. Guadagni as Angeline. Everyone did a great job, but obviously, clearly, this is a Samara's movie, right?
So yeah, easily,
Yeah.
easily. Like, again, she was magnificent, and we can talk about it all day. Again, she plays it very straight, and you know, we've talked. Many people have talked about this when it comes to quote unquote scream queens, and we've seen it like for fun and in videos and in interviews where they talk about what was it like to find your scream, to have that scream synonymous with your character in a movie, you know, and become known for that. And Weaving, man, like, I saw her on a late night show and they asked her to do her scream, and she's one of the best. She's one of the best.
Yeah.
And it's not just an empty scream. Like, there's that as an actor, she's putting real emotion, man. Like, there's so many emotion. And I think that's why she stands out, is it's not just a scream that she's letting out on like, I'm scared. She's capturing all these emotions, which is why like some of her screams have this like up, down, they're shaky, which is really interesting. Like how shaky screams. And it was just fantastic. And again, really strong performances from her. She could be really fun in the movie. When she's in the beginning, she's that bubbly, nice and fun and
Yeah.
energetic. And then you start to see her slowly lose it throughout. But everybody does a good job. Adam Brody was another one for me that I really liked in this movie.
Yeah.
Watching him struggle internally from beginning to end with everything that was happening. And then even Alex gave us a little switch, you know. At the end of the movie, it was like, oh, he's full bad guy now.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to start closing down things. Closing things down here with our closing thoughts. I did want to give us a nice shot of a Grace in the dress here and just the battle
Yeah.
damage. You know, it was a completely white dress to start the movie, and now, you know, here we are. We mentioned this a few times during the breakdown, but to me, you know, upon each rewatch, and obviously the first time I saw this, it was like, this is a Final Girl performance.
Yeah,
You know,
easily.
yeah, no, this is the definition of a Final Girl performance. She's gone on to do other horror movies, you know, making a name for herself as a scream queen.
Mhm.
And Radio Silence just they hit the jackpot when they casted her, you
Yeah.
know, in this role. Um, I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to Radio Silence. So they got their start on VHS during
Mhm.
one of the segments. They did a couple other things. They got this, and then I believe this is the movie that got them Scream 5
Yeah.
and Scream 6, and then they went on to
Yes.
do Abigail
Yes.
afterward. So let's give a little love to Radio Silence here.
Yeah, dude. I'm a huge fan of Radio Silence. My introduction to them was through the VHS film and this one, Ready or Not. And then when I heard that they were doing Scream 5, I was very excited because Ready or Not was such a blast. And Ready or Not reminded me of the Scream movies, where they wanted to blend that humor to a degree with the horror
Yeah,
aspect. And Scream did it in a meta way. Like they used meta humor in order to tie in humor, but there was that dynamic. So I was very excited for what they were going to do with 5. And I thought they did a great job. And I thought they did a great job with 6, even casting her in the beginning of Scream 6. I was very happy to see her. And we all know with our cold open with Scream, that first character usually doesn't make it, but it's become a big deal to be cast in Scream in that cold open. Like, we know what's going to happen. So it was awesome to see them work together again. I hope to see them work together again in the future. Radio Silence seems to do that. Like they have the cast that they like to work with, and they'll bring them back for future projects. So hopefully we get to see them and Weaving team up again. But I'm a big fan of Radio Silence. I like what they bring to the table when it comes to the horror genre, and whatever project they have next, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, absolutely. And um, for me, I just can't stop gushing about Samara Weaving in this movie. I don't know, it might be my favorite one from her. You know, she's done a
Yeah,
lot of movies over the years.
again, yeah, she's done a lot. This is the one for me too. Like this is the one that stands out where I had the most fun with her performance.
Yeah, and I want to say, um, well, you know her from Ash versus Evil Dead. She was on there for a
Hmm.
little bit, but I'm just going through her IMDb here. You know, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That was a high
Yeah.
profile movie. She did a Netflix movie, The Babysitter.
Yes.
Um, she did Ready or Not. She was in Guns Akimbo.
Hmm.
Um, Let me see. Bill and Ted Face the Music. She was in The Babysitter Killer Queen, the sequel. Um,
Yes.
she was in Snake Eyes, the G.I.
Hmm.
Joe movie. Um, what else here? She was in Babylon, and you mentioned it, Scream 6. So she's building quite the resume for herself here,
Yeah.
and rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah. She's great. This movie landed for me. It's right up my alley when it comes to just good times, man. This is a good time movie. This is a movie that I know if I put on, I'm gonna have a fun time. When it comes to horror, sometimes you could put a movie on where uh it can be pretty heavy. When you put on a Conjuring movie, you know that you're basically going for scares and this and that, and to leave you walking sideways at your house when you're all alone. Where a movie like Ready or Not, I know I'm gonna have a blast. Like this is the movie, like The Conjuring, I can only recommend to certain people. Ready
Right.
or Not is that movie that I feel like I can recommend to anybody. You could tell me, Rick, I'm not into horror movies, and I'm like, okay, I understand. You can watch Ready or Not. You will have such a fun time with it. they know exactly what type of movie they're making, and it seems like this is one of those movies that I would have loved to be on the set, because it feels like this was such a fun movie to make, and I feel like you felt that as you watched it through all the characters and the actors and everybody coming together and whatnot. Like, I was like, this feels like it was such a good time and such a fun time to make. And we say with a lot of things, if you feel like the people involved are having fun, it translates through the screen. So I can't help but have a great time. It's easily one of my favorite movies in the past few years. On my Halloween rotation every single year. I wish the only thing I regret is not seeing it in the theater. I wish I would have got an opportunity. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen for me. But the moment it was available, I paid for it. I rented it. I was like, oh, it's available. I'll pay for it. Like, let's go. Like, I'll watch it. I don't care if it's $20. Let's go. And I'm glad that I did. And this is one of those that I would easily recommend to anybody and everyone who is of age to watch Ready or Not. And I hope to see more movies like it. It's one of those movies I want to see more movies like this. These fun horror movies that can have a really good time with their audience and their characters and just deliver all the goods like it did. Heck of an ending, heck of an opening, great comedy, great performances. It's everything I need.
Yeah, for me, it just hit me so much. It was such a good original movie too.
Hmm.
You know, shout out to original movies, folks.
Yeah.
Support original film. You know, people talk about there's not enough original films. Well, support them if you find out about them, and that's how we get more. You know, and they were able to just go low budget and make a great film. It ended up being profitable. Um, and it got them the gig for Scream. You
Yeah.
know, the directors wouldn't have gotten the gig for Scream if not for Ready or Not. So for me, it ended up being one of my top. It made my top 10 of 2019, and we talked about this last year. It's in my top 10 horror movies of all time
Yeah.
for me.
It's
You
good.
know, so I love Ready or Not. It's a great time. Alrighty, folks. That was the Panel Bros official breakdown for Ready or Not. If you could please give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube at the Panel Bros, we'd appreciate it. Also, if you could let us know in the comments below how you felt about Ready or Not, we'd appreciate that as well. Please stay tuned for spooky season 2024. We are continuing along, and we still have some more movies for you. For Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying, thank you for coming to the panel.